All right, here's an AR XB, and I need to explain a little bit of what's going on with this turntable. You know, I got that first AR XA Goodwill find turntable that I shot a video on, and then I did an AR XB that I bought from eBay. And basically it started out as I had never really worked on an AR turntable, and then the Goodwill find AR came into the shop. So I worked on that one, and at first I was like, these aren't, these turntables are nothing special, But the more I worked on it, the more I kind of played around with it, the more I started to like the turntable enough to where I had an ARXB running in my living room for months and months and months. So I ended up acquiring two more ARs, no, three, and they were all kind of for parts, or for repair. So I have an ARXA that I just finished. I have an ARXB that I just finished the other day. And then I've got this kind of like leftover mess. And this leftover mess, at first I was just going to keep this for parts, but I thought, let's see if we can modify this turntable, give it a new plinth. I will have to buy potentially at least one piece, and that's going to be, I'm either going to need a new tone arm, or I'm going to have to modify this tone arm, because this is from an ARXA and this is an XB, and I don't think it's got the groove in the side, so I'd have to either modify this, and I'll explain that whenever I get to that point. But anyway, what I want to do today is talk about what I'm planning on doing with this project. And I'm going to start disassembling this. So what I have to work with is I've got whatever this is going on over here. I actually took the tone arm base and I used it in the ARXA that I just finished, because I put Technics S-shaped tone arm on it so I could put different head shells. So that was a modification. I should have recorded it, but I figure I'm going to do the same on this one. So I needed a taller shaft for it to sit on. Now, if I decide to keep this stock, and the reason why I can't use this one is because the end of this is busted, and it no longer will hold an AR head shell. This one will. This AR head shell is hanging on by a thread, though. So I'm either going to keep this, or I'm going to put the Technics tone arm. And there are other videos that show you how to do that. But I figured I might end up doing it with this video here. So I'm gonna try to salvage what I can, buy as little as possible. In fact, at first I was going to just restore this or resto mod it or repair it with only what I could find in my garage, but I realized, because I want to make a new plinth for it, I've never done that. I have a piece of maple that I've had forever, but I've hacked away at that and I don't have enough to actually make a plinth. So what I'm going to do is, hopefully, fingers crossed, make a new plinth. Now, if I go immediately after this segment to a segment where I bought a plinth, that means that it didn't go very well. But I'm really wanting to make my own plinth for this. Now, this staining, this is etched in there, so I don't know that I'm going to be able to do much with that. But again, this is just, I don't want it to go to waste. I don't want to pitch it. So I'm going to see what I can do. So I'm going to turn this over now. I've pulled so many things off of here, I don't know exactly what I really have remaining. I was using 2x4s because I was adjusting the suspension on the other AR. So, Stella's out there barking. So what I'm going to do is take the plinth apart, because I want to see how this is built. And this thing has led a rough life. Rough life. I've never taken one of these apart before. But this is missing a power cord. It's got a motor. I have no idea if the motor's working. I hope I don't have to buy a motor. But if I do, I will. So I don't remember exactly what the operational status of the motor on this one was. So now I don't think this plinth is square because this is not sitting in there very squarely. And it looks like there's a little tiny lip. And I'm really just talking out loud because I'm going to have to try to... And this plinth has suffered a lot of water damage, so this is all swollen and it's very brittle. You can see where the particle board is breaking off of here. But what I'm going to do is pull this out. Oh, forgot one thing. Excuse my head if it gets in the way. I'll pull this out and get a good look at this plate and then the board. I gotta take that off too. Yeah, the more I mess around with these AR turntables, the more I really like them. I really like the simplistic, like just the basic design. I like the fact that you can modify them if you choose to. They're as basic as a turntable gets. You got a motor, you got a platter, you got a tone arm, and that's it. And I think that is just really cool. And they sound really good. I don't know what that is. And for some reason this last little piece does not want to come out of here. Alright, there we go. And again, I want to retain as much of this as I can. And just transplant this into the new plinth. So, all right, so that's the turntable. Looks like this has been, it's got a, there must be, looks like it was cut or something up here. I'm not sure what that's about. But now the one thing, and I remember reading about making a plinth for an XB before, but I couldn't remember what the issue was, and I'm seeing what that issue is. So that issue is, unlike the XA, this has a lip. This has a lip that plate sits under. Now, I don't see why. Yeah. So that's something I'm going to have to account for when I build the new plinth. I'm also going to have to account for these openings back here. And this is just a hinge that they were using for the dust cover hinge. Like, I mean, glad they got their use out of it. Yeah, this thing is not square anymore. It's all sorts of crooked. All right, so I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to gather all of the little parts and pieces and put them in a bag. And I'm going to have to go and buy probably a 4-inch piece of maple. This is exactly 3 inches, and you need just about exactly 3 inches. Right, because of the suspension and all the stuff underneath, so I'm gonna have to go 4-inch base or 4-inch board for the base for the plinth, and yeah, go from there. So it's either gonna be, I might film myself making this, but I'm not a woodworker, and that would just be painful for you to watch. So I may shoot some footage, I may put it out on the channel. I may just come back with hopefully a plinth that's either one that I built or one that I bought off of eBay. A piece of maple costs about $20, right, for a 6-foot 4-inch piece of maple. I know I can buy a plinth off of eBay right now in decent shape for about $40, but I want to see if I can make that. The only thing I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to handle is that little lip. But I'll have to chew on that. I may have to go out to the internet for some inspiration and see what other people have done. It looks like there's a little, I could maybe route a little groove out to where that plate sits in there a little bit. Don't know if I want to do that though, because that'll change the dimensions of the base. Because eventually I'd like to be able to put like a J and B cover on this. So I want the plinth that I make to be the same outer diameter as this plinth, if that makes any sense. So I'm probably going to have to do some creative engineering. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. Wish me luck. Hopefully you see this footage, because that means I succeeded in some way, shape, or form. If not, it'll just go into the the recycle bin on my PC. So anyway, let's see what the next step has in store for us. Yeah, I'm just kind of adding this in here, but I decided to look at this top plate real quick. Excuse me. And this wasn't cut very clean, so I had to move remove a little piece of metal from this side in the, like back here in the corner. So I'm kind of squaring this up. But I thought I would at least clean this up, and let's see if this top is going to be salvageable. This is it's a metal plate, but this is almost like a rubberized coating on here. I'm not sure what this material is. I thought it was just painted, but it looks to me like it's some kind of like a mat. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like a mat or something that was applied to the top. So I'm not an AR historian, so I'm not sure, but I thought I would at least kind of show maybe a before and after. Clean this up. Went right to the simple green on this because this was pretty nasty. And this is going to take me a while to clean up, and even if I can get everything off of here, I want to get this as clean as possible. And try to preserve this top. So I just wanted to show you that real quick. And I think I have a plan. I think I know what I'm going to do with the plinth. So hopefully in the next week or so, I'm going to go pick out some lumber and start putting the plinth together. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, just want to show you this real quick. Hopefully I can get this a lot cleaner than it is right now. It's going to take a little bit of elbow grease, but I've got some time to kill this afternoon. So this is like the perfect project, or the perfect time to do a project like this. So anyway, when we come back, it should be me hopefully talking about the plinth. All right, so here's the plinth. Overall I'm pleased with how it turned out. Now, I'm not a woodworker. I've said that before, right? Learned a lot in putting this together. Sorry, just moving the camera around a little bit. I learned a lot in putting this together, made a lot of mistakes, made a few mistakes. Number one, don't buy a cheap table saw. I've had this inexpensive table saw forever, and it's worked well, and I was able to do what I did with this. But, well, part of it was me not really learning how to do what I was supposed to do with it. So I'll explain kind of what happened with the plinth during its construction. But what I did, and I walked away for a second. What I did was I went to my home improvement store and I was going to go and I was going to get, I think I was going to do it in maple because I had a piece of maple in the garage. And then I went there to get the maple, and I really wanted walnut, and I could have ordered a piece of walnut. You know, I could have gone to one of the local, woodworking shops that I've been to before and got a piece of walnut, but, it was just kind of like over the lunch thing, and I thought, oh, mahogany doesn't look too bad. So I got this is just inexpensive mahogany. I got a 1x4x6 board. This cost I think it was $15. Got the mahogany board. And I have that because I really like this mahogany. I think it turned out pretty, it's a good compromise for a walnut, I think. It gives it a little bit more color. This is red mahogany. You know, for 15 bucks though, and maybe an hour worth of my time, well, I mean, it's been about 2 with all of the sanding and applying the finish and stuff like that. But, you know, in terms of money out of my pocket, I don't think it was too bad. So anyway, what I did, and this is still kind of drying, but I wanted to fit the top plate on here and explain the design to you. So what I was going for was I wanted to make sure I built this to where the J&B Audio dust cover that I bought would fit on this. Now, because traditionally the AR plinths are 1/2 inch, this is 1 inch, right? So it's actually like, what, 3/4 of an inch thick. So naturally, you know, if I build it to fit the plinth, then the box itself is going to be a little bit tight. Like, you know what I mean? Like you either have to, you know, maybe, gosh, what do they call it? I can't even think of the word now. Basically, I'd have to make the boards, you know, go from 3/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch, like through a sander or something like that, right? So I made it with the dust cover in mind, and I didn't really consider the inner diameter and how that was going to work. And with the ARXB, these sat really in a groove within the plinth. And I tried, with the limited knowledge I have of how to actually work my table saw, to cut a groove into some of the pieces. I don't have one of the pieces handy to show you. In fact, I think it's one of these. But it wasn't working well on my table saw. Again, it's an inexpensive table saw, and things aren't aligned as precisely as they should be. So I could not cut the grooves to kind of build the plinth around the top of the turntable, if that makes sense. So what I did was I thought, well, I'll just build the box and then I'll figure it out. So I got a rabbiting router bit, and I used the rabbiting router bit, right, to kind of cut this groove in it, right? The problem with that is, and if you look at the top, you'll see, sorry. If you look at the top, you'll see it fits really well on the sides. And my intent with the rabbiting router was to route out the sides and then stop in the corner and then adjust the spacer on the rabbiting router bit and try to get this a little bit closer than I got it. Well, once, and again, I'm kind of new to woodworking. You know, my little hand router and my inexperience, once I made that first cut, it just took it right into the corner, and then I was committed to making it a larger opening than I wanted. So what is going to happen with this is there's going to be more of a gap, right? So I can kind of push it all the way back here, and then I have a large gap here, but I'm going to have to kind of offset it. And another thing that I had not considered was the inner diameter of an AR plinth has to be 11 5/8 by 15 5/8. This is at like 11 1/4 and I think about 15. So I'm off by 1/2 inch, which is fine. But if I were to fit this plinth in here and center it, the T-bar actually scratches the front of this. So what I had to do is kind of carve out a little groove for this to go down in. And then I also think it's just going to sit a little further back, right? It's going to sit a little bit further back, which, I mean, if you look at it like this, you can't even, you're not going to notice it, right? Unless I point it out, which I have a really bad habit of doing, is pointing out the mistakes that I made on these things. But, you know, to me, it's all right. I have to come up with a way to secure it, and I've got a couple of ideas in mind to make sure this doesn't float around here. I might just opt for some, maybe some silicone on the bottom of the platter, or I'm coming up with some way to do that, because unlike the XA top, this doesn't have any place to screw the supports in like on an XA, right? They're like these braces or supports that are kind of stapled to the side, at least the ones that I've seen. And then there's a bolt that comes up and it screws into the bottom of the plate. This one doesn't have anything like that because this is supposed to be sitting in grooves. But again, now, I mean, I learned a ton doing this, so now I understand better what I would have to do next time. And again, for $15, I can build another plinth, but I really like working on AR turntables. I plan to do many, many, many more projects as these pop up. You know, if I can get them at a decent price and work on them. I really enjoy working on these turntables. So that's the plinth. This is still drying. I'm not gonna do any hardcore work with this. I'm still waiting. And again, you're seeing this as one continuous video, but at this point in time, it's been about a week since I started. I need to find an ARXB tone arm. I'm going to put a Technics on here. So I'm gonna have to rewire it. So that way I can put different head shells on it. I was gonna go with an original AR, but I thought since I'm gonna have to rewire this anyway, I'm just gonna go with the Technics and make my life easier. The problem is, and I think I may have mentioned this or maybe I didn't, I just did a review on AR turntables that'll be coming out before this one comes out, most likely. But what I had to do on the AR, once I put the Technics tone arm on it, it sat too low. So the tone arm, imagine the stylus being here, the tone arm was kind of sitting back at an angle, and it wasn't, right? It wasn't at the height that it should have been. So by chance, I remembered I had this, so I took the tone arm support stand, right, with a pivot, and now it's like almost perfect. It's almost perfectly, it's set to the right VTA, right? So I'm looking for another ARXB tone arm. I don't want to spend, I'm not going to overspend on one, but if I could get one for 40 bucks, then, you know, that part is going to be worth it. And I'll probably just remove this one completely and then transplant the new one in there and then wire it. And I am, again, and maybe I might change my mind if I do get one of these complete at a really good price and it's working, the tone arm wires are good. I may just install it and not do the Techniques. It just kind of depends. But really, I'm just buying the support piece is what I'm looking for. And maybe I can look out and find that. I don't know. And then I still don't know about the motor. I still have to put I need to put a power cord on it. So my plan is I'm going to let this dry for a couple more days. Nothing is wet on the inside. I was just kind of fitting this, and I thought I would shoot this portion of the video. So it's going to be a couple more days, and then I will kind of jump back into the video working on getting power to this. This really cleaned up nice. And it's got, I don't know if this is a finish on it or it's like a rubberized coating, but I don't want to try to refinish this because I kind of like it. And again, I think it looks all right. Again, if I really don't point out the flaws, unless you're a woodworker, you know, you probably wouldn't really notice. Most of the miter joints are pretty good, but even I learned a couple of mistakes that I made there. They're not exact, but they're decent. So anyway, that's the plinth. I'm going to pick it up with working on sorting out maybe the motor, unless a tone arm pops up, but I really do need to get the motor figured out, see if I need to get another one. I think this motor was good, but one thing, if I haven't mentioned it, this was the ARXB that I bought off of eBay and thought I got it at a great price. And I ended up transplanting some of the stuff from this turntable into another plinth, and it was a big mess. So this is really the carcass of the first ARXB. And I know the pulley was a little off, so I'll probably have to order a pulley. I've got like 3 pulleys now because I've been through so many AR turntables, but we'll just have to see what I have. But I'm rambling at this point. So anyway, yep, I'll pick it up with whatever's next. Probably sorting out the motor. Getting the motor running. You know, I do have one thing to add, and just I'm gonna try to head off any comments. You know, I do appreciate people that stay tuned to the channel and you know, like the videos, and I get a lot of requests for additional footage. Like I'm just gonna put it out there now. The reason why I didn't film me going through building this plinth is because I had no idea what I was doing. There are great videos out there on how to do something like this. In fact, there's an ARXB that someone, they take a different approach. And again, had this turned out And I anticipated it was not going to turn out perfectly, so that's why I didn't film it. But on the next one, I will try to record what I've done. But you can find, right? There's lots of information online and in videos where you can see what someone did to build one of these. So that's why I didn't include any of that footage. Me cussing and cutting and making mistakes, on the mahogany is kind of boring. Well, maybe it's not boring, but I didn't want to be distracted when I did it. So anyway, now on to the next segment. All right, update on the ARXB-ish is what I'm calling it. It's a combination of the ARXB carcass and some leftover ARXA components. So I wanted to bring you up to speed on where we're at right now. So the plinth is good. The plinth is done. Now I do want to show you something. And it is whisper quiet. So I want to, well, not whisper quiet. It's got that little teeny tiny tick that's common with AR turntables. Hardly perceptible. You can hardly hear it. But I want to talk to you about what I did to this. But first I want to recap the plinth work that I've done. Let me pull this stuff out of the way, and this is pretty dusty. I've been doing some other stuff on this. So let me kind of dust this off, just to kind of show you. It is clean. The top is clean. And the reason why I did not film, the reason why I didn't record the plinth work that I did was I had no idea what I was doing, made a lot of mistakes. But now that I have done one of these, I'm going to go into more detail on exactly what I did when I work on an ARXA, where I'm going to build a plinth. So, sorry, it was just bugging me. All right, so this is, as mentioned, the top plate for the ARXB is sitting on top of, right, the plinth that I built for it. The reason why I did that is I really didn't understand how I could cut grooves in the sides. Now that I understand how to do that, it's pretty easy. If I do another one of these, I will do it the proper way. But at the time I did not know. So you don't know what you don't know. So the plinth is in really good shape. I think I did mount some feet. These are vinyl Nirvana feet that are actually for Thorns, and I did that so there's cable clearance in the back for the power cord and the RCA cables. So let me show you, actually it's better if I do it this way. Let me show you the underside, and then we're going to talk about the motor. So this had the Hayden motor in it, or has the Hayden motor in it. And if I do it like this, the bearings are going to pop out of here. I'm going to have to catch those. So you're going to hear a couple of bearings fall out. There's one. That was for the tone arm. And two, that was for the platter. And I'll explain why I have a bearing in there for the platter in a minute. But what I did with this was, so Hayden motor, as you can see, I've kind of done a little bit of cable management here with the power cables. That's a little bit loose. Let me tack that down real quick. And use a screwdriver, I guess. Oop, that popped right out of there. So I'm gonna have to restaple that one. But I basically just tacked the power cords in with staples around the inside of the plinth so they're out of the way. I did replace the startup cap with a new old stock one that I found because I thought that initially the motor was taking forever to spin up, and I'm going to show you why that is in a minute and what I've done to address what I think is a pretty common issue with that Hayden motor. So I still have not worked on the tone arm. That's the next step. I'm going to use an ARXA tone arm that I have laying around. I have some tone arm wires coming. I think I'm going to use the ARXA tone arm. I'll just rewire it. I do have a Technics. I may do that. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to use this one or if I'm going to use that, because this one actually has, oh no, this is, no, I can't use this one. Okay, so I can't use this tone arm because the end is busted, right? That doesn't really work anymore. So I'm going to have to put the Technics. It's been a couple of days. I couldn't remember where I'd left off. But I'm going to use this to show you something here in a minute because I've been testing tone arm height with this. So, but we'll get to that in a minute. All right. So what else? So I have not wired the tone arm. I have not attached the RCA cable block. That's going to require a little bit of adjustment, or on the bottom. What I've done to secure the top cover is I grabbed some industrial glue, and it is a little soft. It's not as soft as silicone, but it is a little bit soft. But it is securing the top plate, number one. I put some contact cement on the top side just around the edges to kind of get it to tack down initially. And then I've got this other type of adhesive just around this base all the way around. So, and it stays. It's not going anywhere. So there's the Hayden motor. So I want to talk about what I did to get rid of the motor noise, at least temporarily. And I didn't do any research before I modified this, and I probably should have, because then I would have understood how this works. But I want to show you what is going on, or what I have addressed. So if I turn this on right now, this is going to be pretty loud. So can you hear that grinding noise? What's happening is this post, right? This center post is basically bottoming out in the motor. So there's a, as far as I can tell, there's a backing plate on the motor. Well, there's the outer cover, and then, basically this post is going to go all the way down, and it's rubbing on the back of that. So it's creating that vibration noise. Now, I don't know if you've looked at the XB video where I got this, right? And I basically replaced or I replinth the XB. But I noticed that there was a little brass collar here that was threaded. Now, that's present on all of these Hayden motors. I didn't know that was common with them, but I could not get that to move up or down. It was just frozen in the position that it was. So what I did was I removed it. And what I have done is I have a little black rubber grommet, and there's a plastic washer underneath, right? So what happens when you turn this on is the shaft will come up, right? It'll pop up just a little tiny bit. So what I am doing to help this not rub on the bottom is I pull the shaft up. I know my hands are in their way, and then I push that rubber, right, that rubber grommet down to where, if I put, right, the pulley back on here, the bottom of the pulley shaft does not bottom out. Now, the rubber grommet, eventually over time, it's gonna kind of sink down again, and it'll end up hitting the bottom, and it will rub. But I haven't done anything to permanently kind of freeze that grommet in that spot. It was really more of a test of my concept, right? I thought that was the problem, and I wanted to see if it would work. But now, if I turn it on, usually when there's no belt on here, it will make that noise, so you can hardly hear anything now. And then when I get the belt on, it's virtually silent. So that's how I address that issue. Because I didn't account for the difference in the platter height and the lip on this plinth that I made, what I've done is I've taken a ball bearing, right, and I've just dropped it into the well here. And I could actually put a larger one in here, which I may do. Yeah, I may put a larger one in there just to make sure it stays centered. But I pop that in there so that way the platter sits a little bit higher. And then this is just the tone arm bearing, right? That sits down in there. So when we get it all together, I have nice, quiet operation, and everything is aligned to where it should be. Now, one thing about this pulley is 45 is about 1/8 of an inch low when it's sitting without, right, the outer platter. But once I put this on there, it is nice and it is aligned. I may have to raise the platter a little bit. I should have 1/8 of an inch, but I haven't really done any leveling or tuning of the suspension to make sure that it's level. But the tone arm goes here, like so. I had to order a counterweight. My elevator works. Right, I need to adjust that a little bit. I had to, I just found, and I have other ones, I'm going to probably get a smaller one to put here, but basically what I did, because this is missing, right, this is missing the top of this threaded shaft, I just took, right, a knob, because I've got tons of these knobs, and I drilled out the center, and I can screw that in there, and at least I have a little bit of a longer, right, a little bit of a longer lever here that I can use. Right? Again, I have to adjust it, but adjusting the height in terms of the tone arm is really easy because this is threaded. So you just turn the knurled part, and it'll come up and down, right? And then if you tighten it, it lowers it. If you loosen it, it comes up. So now this will sit higher. So initially I thought I was going to have to get an XB arm to get this to work, but I am fairly confident that I can get it to work with this XA. Again, my initial goal was just to kind of build this and not have to buy anything. Naturally, a counterweight. I might be able to make a counterweight from something else work, but I think that would look kind of homely on an AR turntable. So I won't be doing that. Again, sorry I didn't cover the plinth build, but I didn't know what I was doing. Right? If you look close enough, you're like, that high school shop class quality, but you know, it works. So again, now if I hit the power button, so there were two issues with this. Number one, the motor was very noisy, and number two, it would not start up on its own. Again, because that post was bottoming out. So now, works just fine. Right? Again, there's a little bit of noise, but not much. Occasionally, if I have the pulley set too high, it'll rub on the bottom of this. So again, once I am comfortable with where that rubber grommet has to sit on the shaft, I'm going to try to secure it somehow, maybe with some UV glue or something like that. I don't know if that'll work, but it doesn't require a lot, right? A lot of, I guess, reinforcing to keep that grommet from sliding up and down. So I think I can get away with just tacking it down. So what are we on to next? We're on to rewiring the tone arm with the Audio Technica. So I actually have to disassemble that turntable to get it running. Or not to get it running, but to remove that so I can install it and then get this running. But hopefully in the next segment you're going to see me rewiring a tone arm and testing for sound. I think I got that on. That looks a little crooked. I think I have one of these in there wrong. So anyway, that's where we're at on the ARXBXA Abomination project. And this will be just my turntable, so I'll keep it in all of its ugliness, you know. So anyway, that's the latest update on this. The next segment, tone arm, and then we'll get on to testing for sound. All right, as you can see, a couple of developments on the turntable. I'm going to go over these, let you know what I've done. All right, so a couple of things here. Number one, I'm actually going to have to move that out of my way. So as you can see, this has a new tone arm. Right, so what I did was had a Technics SLB3 that was at 402 vinyl for parts, and what I did is I just pulled it off of the turntable and then mounted it in the ARXB turntable. Now this post is from, and the support is from an ARXA, so this is, you know, just kind of a combination of a couple of different turntables going on here. But what I believe is I have enough tone arm wire here to where I won't have to, hopefully, I won't have to run new tone arm wires. So if I were to have to run new tone arm wires, here's what that would look like. I gotta let my dog in. So if I had to do that, what I would do is I would unscrew these two screws, and then I would release, right, the end of the tone arm, right? This whole piece would come out, it would pull the wires out with it, and then I would solder new wires on, run them through the tone arm, and run them through kind of the base of the tone arm here. But I do want to show you, I do have to do a little bit of work here, so I'll show you what that is going to involve. But you pull the tone arm wires through the pipe, and then they just kind of drop down. Whoop, I got to take care of a dog. We lost our dog, Ralph, in March, and we've adopted a rescue, so we're kind of dealing with her getting adjusted to, right, our rules and our house and all that stuff. She's a good girl, really good girl. I'll introduce her at some point. But here's the part from the Technics where the tone arm pipe came from. So pull this out, and so what I have to do first is I need to make sure these tone arm wires lay in this little channel. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's a little channel here. And I'm going to use some fingernail polish, push the wires flat, because as this pivots right on top of this ball, we don't want the tone arm wires to be bound by the top of this, right? So I want to make sure I tack those down. And then I'm going to attach the tone arm wires to the underside of the turntable. I could also use, I used UV glue on another project that I had, the ARXA that I did. So I can really do either or. UV glue was kind of difficult to work with. I think the fingernail polish might work a little bit better, but I'm not real sure. So either way, I've got to tack this down, and then I'm going to attach the wires and see how that goes. Plus I need to cut a little bit of wire for a ground. So let me do that and come back and show you what I did. Alright, so what I did is I used a combination of UV glue and nail polish. The nail polish is drying right now, so those are nice and laid out and flat. So I'm going to let that dry. I want to show you a couple of other things. I found a better tone arm elevator cap, I guess. I pulled this off of the Technics, and I also pulled the tone arm stand off of the Technics. So I think I'm going to use both of those. I may replace this. I ordered a Pat's Audio replacement for the XA. I may put that on there, but I like how this one locks. And again, this is just like a complete bastardization, right, of an ARXB turntable. So I'm going to flip this over, and what I'm going to do is get this ready. I'm going to have to remove that tone arm stand and get this ready to attach the tone arm wires. So I don't want that to break. There's that one. Got to remove the pulley. Get my wooden blocks set up here to rest this on. My goal is to have this tested for sound today. That would be awesome, because I have another AR project I want to work on. All right. So I think if I mount that as close to, what I might do is mount it on this side so the tone arm wires don't have to go quite so far. And then I'll have to reposition those. Have to do some cable management work here, but I think that'll sit there just fine. So here, that's the old replaced RCA connector on right on that little connecting board there. So, all right. What I'm going to do is I need to grab a little tiny piece of ground wire and I need a little tiny piece of ground wire so I can run it. Yeah, I need to run it. Oh, actually, I don't think I have to. Oh no, because I have to ground it. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. I need to ground, right, the barrel to this part of the tone arm, and then from this part of the tone arm to that board there. So that's what I'm gonna do. Sorry, it's been one of those days. My mind's I'm kind of scatterbrained today, trying to figure out what I'm doing. So anyway, I'll speak through whatever it is I'm gonna do, and then come back and let you know what I did. Well, that was a nightmare. That was a whole lot worse than I thought it was going to be. So, now I'm just going to see, number one, if I have enough. I should. Yeah, I think I got plenty of tone arm wire. Got plenty of tone arm wire. And now, actually, let's do this first. First, I'm going to see the hum situation here. So let's see if I got some hum. I'm going to turn on, I got that on phono. Oh, you know what? Gotta connect the RCA cables first. I do have one ground wire that's loose. Yeah. It looks like my right channel is not working, so let me make sure I got that connected correctly back here. Could also be a bad RCA cable. I guess I'm assuming these RCA cables are good. Let me check that out first. All right. My donor wires are my RCA cables. Yep, I know. I'm freaking trying to hurry. Oh, perfectly clear sound between both channels. That is glorious. That is glorious. So, now, and I have my, love it. Now I have my, where I got the counterweight for this today. So I might be able to do a sound check today and be close to wrapping this one up. So do I have enough to go get that in there? Oh, yep. Just enough. All right. Okay, so I'm going to take that head shell off though. Love the barking dog. I do love the barking dog. That's Stella barking. And the new pup, she's 3. Her name is Dixie. And she's a rescue, and she was used for breeding. She's not even 3 yet, which is, to me, very, very, very unfortunate. Makes me angry. But that's just how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to have to set this to the side because I need to go run some errands. But I will come back and hopefully be able to do a sound check in the next segment. This is getting exciting. So, see you all in a couple hours, although I'm just going to go right next to the next segment. All right, pretty excited, getting close to doing a sound check. Get some of this crap off of here. Yeah, I was hoping to wrap this up this weekend so that way I can go on to another project. That is another AR turntable. I'm going to make another plinth, but this time I'm going to, learning from my mistakes, hopefully do a better job. So, first things first, I'm going to install the Pat's Audio tone arm stand. The other one is good. I do like it, but it's not... I don't know that it really goes with the aesthetic of the turntable, although this turntable is kind of like a Frankenstein's monster. It's got all sorts of stuff going on. So I think I'm going to put the Pat's Audio on it, and I think it's a better fit for the table. I may put the other one back on, I don't know. So, tone arm stand is on the table. Keep that over there. Man, lots of dust. All right, and this has got to sit on wires and cables and all that stuff. Okay. So here's a Pat's Audio counterweight. And this is going to be running, at least for right now, a Stanton 500 DJ. And they run at 2 to 5 grams. If this were an XA, like an actual XA tone arm, because of the damping, if the damping was still intact, I would run this heavier. But since this is an XB and there is no damping, and typically on other tone arms, I run it lighter. So I run it more around 2.5 grams, 3 grams. Just kind of depends. So here is the inner platter. Yeah, I may rethink that. I need to adjust it. I may rethink the Pat's Audio stand. Okay. That should be good. Because the other one was a little bit taller, but I have to adjust the... Actually, I'm going to have to adjust a couple things. I have to adjust the suspension, because now I have the weight of the tone arm. And so I'm going to have to beef up the suspension on this side. So I'm not going to do that right now, but what I want to do first is adjust that tone arm elevator. And here's how this works. So I'm just loosening that so I can get my hand in here. Hopefully tighten it. Let's put that down a little bit. Here, that's better. There, and that'll sit. Now it will sit down the way it's supposed to. Oh man, now what the heck? Now I had that lined up and it like moved on me. Again, I may put that other tone arm stand here. I don't know. There. Nope, it's spun a little bit. There we go. There we go. Much better. I want to see what that's going to run. Again, I haven't tuned the suspension, but I want to get this. And again, I'm looking for 2 or 3 grams. Initially, I can go a little bit heavier if I need to, but yeah, 2.59, so that's good. So now, what I'm going to need to do is, gosh, I don't know, I may put that other tone arm stand on here so I can lock that down. I don't like how that just flops around so easily. So this is 3-point suspension, right? So there are 3 springs. What I need to do is I need to adjust the height of this spring. And what I'm looking to do is have about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom of the platter to the top of the plinth, not the top of the face up here, but the actual edge of the plinth, because this has to clear that outer edge. So, and I had it adjusted for no tone arm when I was messing around with it, because once you put a slip mat and a record on, it's going to pull that down, and that's pretty close, but not quite. All right. That's better. Okay. So let me get my, plug this in real quick. I need to get a slip mat for this, and I will come back and we're going to test a record. So just a cheap cork slip mat. I buy these off of Amazon. They're like 3 for $10. So they're not super expensive by any stretch of the imagination. Put on some Peter Schilling Major Tom. I want to check the suspension height. That's still good. Yeah, that's still good all the way around. Might be a little low here in the front. I may just raise this the tiniest bit. Kind of eyeballing it from all the way around. All right. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed we actually get some decent sound out of this. So that can still go down quite a bit. I may have to pull this out just a little bit, and let me show you how this works. So to adjust the damping, the speed of the damping, this outer collar is either rotated clockwise or counterclockwise to either increase or decrease the damping. Now this does use some silicone oil on here, but it's really the spring position that dictates the speed that the tone arm is going to drop. And then this, right, this part here, where it's knurled, that is where you would turn that screw that's sitting on the shaft. So basically this sits on a shaft that's attached to that large part that I showed you where the damping oil goes. So, and it's kind of hard to, yeah, so that's better. Oh, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. Okay, let's see what happens. Oops. I think my pulley was a little bit too high. So let's see. So that's spinning. You gotta make sure this is clearing it all the way around. So it's clearing it. We're in good shape. Something is out of alignment. So the dog is barking on cue. So what's happening is this is just a little bit too high. Push that down. Seat it on there. Make sure that bearing's down in there. Yep, here we go. Okay, so there's that one. Not sure why that wants to rub now. Oh, there we go. I think what happened was I know I keep saying there we go. Hopefully this does it. Okay. Just the pulley was sitting too high up on the shaft. So. All right. Now let's try this. Tone arm up, over. Stereo's on, no hum. Again, I kind of had to modify what was going on with this thing. So what it is I've got some... I tried kind of permanently putting that grommet in a certain spot with some UV glue. So the UV glue ended up sticking to the shaft, but really not to the grommet. So now I've got a little bit of a lip there, and the pulley is not seating down as far as it was before. So it's hitting the bottom of the platter. So I may have to do a little bit of work to that to get that to sit down a little bit lower. You know, for my Frankentable. My Frankenstein turntable. Still hitting. Dang it. I didn't think that glue was sticking to that shaft. But it's just enough for this pulley to not go down any further. So let me clean that off. I'm going to have to... There we go. Is that chunk right there? That chunk of glue right there. And the whole reason I put that there was so that the pulley would sit higher. And... I don't need to give it kind of a push to get it started. If this doesn't get it, I'm just going to pause and get it sorted out and then come back. So let me spin this. There we go. There we go. All right, so now let's try. So that's up, on. So I have to adjust damping. Sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds pretty good to me. So this is going to require just a little bit of tweaking. I think it can go down just a hair. And it dropped down quite a bit, so. So let me adjust that. I'm going to pause and come back. I'm going to get this all sorted out, and then I'll come back. I'll adjust the damping and all that stuff, and then then we'll talk about what we have left to do. All right, so here it is. Just turn this down. Don't want to get a copyright hit. So here is the finished product for now. You know, I enjoyed doing this project. I am going to build a plinth for an ARXA. The Goodwill Find ARXA. I'm going to build a new plinth for that. I'm going to put it in there. So, you know, I learned a lot working on this one. You know, as you can see, the J&B Audio plinth fits more or less, but you know, my miter game and my measurements were off, as you can see, by maybe a ½ inch or so. But I had no idea what I was doing when I when I just kind of dove in and you know, started cutting the angles on this and all that stuff. So I think it's definitely better than, you know, when it started, which it was just a pile of parts. So, you know, this is kind of a Frankentable, right? So it's got, so let's recap what I did. So new plinth out of mahogany that I got from my local home improvement store. My goal was to spend as little money as possible. So this was about 15 bucks. I bought an AR badge. I bought a pair. I know this isn't the one that goes with the turntable, but I prefer that one. And hell, it's a Frankentable anyway, so, you know, do what I want. So I got a badge. That was about 10 bucks. The dust cover is from another AR turntable. So this is mine. I'll have to buy one for this, or I will be buying one for this. That's going to be 170, but that was not factored into this whole thing. So it's got an it's got an ARXA tone arm shaft, I guess you want to call it that. What the tone arm sits on, it's shorter than the XB, but the where the tube, the tone arm tube connects to it, that's from an ARXB. The Pat's Audio counterweight, I had to pay, I think, 40 bucks for that. The head shell I had, the cartridge I had, the tube for the tone arm actually came from an Audio Technica SLB2 that I had stashed away for parts. So there was that. Let me carefully remove that. I didn't do any polishing to the platter or anything like that. I don't know that I will. I did have to clean up the faceplate a little bit. I had to buy a Pat's Audio stand, but I have this one that I may put on it just because this locks in place. So I may put that on that. I'm not sure. This little cap for the tone arm elevator came from the Technics, and there are a couple of carcass turntables at 402 vinyl. That we're just kind of keeping around for parts, and I'm probably going to grab, there's one that has a silver cap, but I have to bring the turntable back so I can get that off. But I may put that on it, but it doesn't look horrible. Again, I may put that on it just because I like to be able to lock that tone arm in place. This is a good stand, but and I can just put a piece of twist tie on there and keep it straight. But I figured out, or I got the pulley figured out. It's just got a slip mat that, I get them 3 for, I don't know, 15, 20 bucks on Amazon. I don't know what they're up to now. I haven't bought them for a while. But yeah, I mean, this was just kind of a junk pile. And, less than probably, let's count it up. So let's say this was 20, that was 40, that's 60. That was 70, and then 15, about 85 bucks. 85 bucks, and working ARXB sounds pretty good. I still have to tweak the suspension a little bit, and I'm going to do a little bit of additional, kind of general cleanup on it. But in fact, if I buy a dust cover for this one, I think J&B has one that's not badged AR, so I may buy that one. I'm just trying to put this on without interrupting the record, hitting something. So. But I'll get one for this eventually, and it's AR. I mean, there's no. I can tap the front, tap the sides, tap the top. Nothing comes through the speakers. So again, a little bit of tweaking I'm gonna have to do. May stiffen the suspension just a little bit. To me, it feels a little bit soft, but yeah, it was a fun project. Again, it's kind of a junk pile turned into something useful, which is what I like to do. Those are the things I enjoy doing for the channel. I don't know, maybe that would look better. I don't know, I kind of like that black little thing there. So anyway, when this before it gets to its final, steady state, I'm sure it's gonna have a few additional changes. But hope you enjoyed the series. I know I didn't include building the plinth, but I have an AR XA that I'm gonna build a plinth for, and I will go into more detail on that because I think I got my miter measurements correct. So we'll talk about that when I transplant that into a new plinth. So as always, if you like what you see, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.